Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Native Learners. Today's story is about a girl named Mia. In a quiet village surrounded by misty hills, there lived a girl named Mia. She was known for her curiosity and bold spirit, never fearing the unknown. Every morning, Mia wandered through the forest paths near her home. The rustling leaves and chirping birds were her only companions. Her parents often warned her not to go too far, but Mia always explored further. One day, she noticed a narrow trail covered in overgrown grass and vines. It looked ancient, like no one had walked it in years. Drawn by mystery, Mia stepped onto the forgotten path. The deeper she went, the colder the air around her became. She had no idea that this trail would lead to a secret hidden for decades. As she walked, the sounds of the forest began to fade into eerie silence. Tall trees arched over the trail, blocking sunlight from reaching the ground. The silence was strange, yet Mia's heart beat with excited curiosity. Suddenly, she came upon an old iron gate, rusted but still standing. Beyond it lay a massive estate, swallowed by vines and time. The gate creaked open with a push, revealing a cracked stone path. Mia's eyes widened as she stepped onto the estate grounds. The mansion was enormous, with broken windows and a collapsed roof. She wondered who once lived here, and why it had been abandoned. But something inside her urged her to find out more, to go closer. Mia entered through a broken side door, her steps echoing on the wooden floor. Dust danced in beams of light that squeezed through broken windows. The inside smelled of age, like wet stone and forgotten books. On the walls hung faded portraits of solemn faces, watching her in silence. The grand staircase in the center looked dangerous, but sturdy enough. Mia climbed carefully, floorboards groaning beneath her weight. Upstairs, she found a hallway lined with closed doors and cobwebs. One door stood slightly open, as if inviting her inside. She entered the room and saw old furniture covered with white sheets. On a desk lay a journal, its pages yellowed and delicate with time. Mia opened the journal and read the first few lines with growing interest. It belonged to someone named Illyra, who once lived in the mansion. The entries described strange events, noises at night, and vanishing servants. Illyra believed the house was haunted, and feared something in the cellar. Mia's hands trembled slightly as she flipped through the final entries. They became frantic, describing a secret hidden beneath the house. Illyra wrote of a door in the cellar that should never be opened. The last line read, "If you find this, do not go below, the silence waits." Mia closed the journal, her heart pounding with both fear and wonder. She knew she had to see the cellar for herself, despite the warning. The cellar door was hidden behind a tattered curtain in the kitchen. Mia found it unlocked, the hinges screaming as she pulled it open. A long staircase descended into pitch-black darkness. She used her phone's flashlight to guide her steps down. The air grew colder with each step, pressing against her skin like icy fingers. At the bottom, she found a stone corridor lined with ancient symbols. Dust and bones littered the floor, and the silence was deafening. At the end of the corridor stood a heavy wooden door with no handle. Mia pressed her hand against it, and it opened slowly with a groan. Beyond it was a chamber glowing faintly with a bluish light. Inside the chamber, strange crystals protruded from the walls. In the center lay a stone pedestal holding a small ornate box. Mia approached it cautiously, unsure if it was safe to touch. The air hummed with energy, and the light flickered like candle flames. She reached out and opened the box, revealing a silver key and a note. The note read, "To awaken the silence is to summon what sleeps below." Mia pocketed the key, unsure of what it unlocked. Just then, the chamber trembled slightly, dust falling from the ceiling. She backed away quickly, her instincts screaming at her to leave. As she turned to run, she heard a soft whisper echo through the room. The whisper grew louder as she climbed back up to the main floor. It wasn't a voice exactly, it was like a thought pressing into her mind. Come back," it repeated, over and over. Mia slammed the cellar door shut and bolted it with a heavy chair. Her heart was racing, but her curiosity refused to die. She ran upstairs, determined to find more clues about Illyra and the key. In the attic, she found old trunks filled with letters and maps. One letter, written in Illyra's hand, mentioned a hidden room in the mansion. The letter said the room was guarded by the Soundless One. Whatever that meant, Mia knew she had to find that room next. Behind a bookshelf in the library, Mia found a hollow space. She pushed it aside and uncovered a narrow spiral staircase. It was cramped and dusty, leading up into a forgotten tower. The walls here were covered with murals of the moon and the sea. At the top, she found the hidden room, a circular space with a skylight. A single chair sat in the center, surrounded by mirrors facing inward. Carved into the stone wall were the words, "Face what echoes within." Mia sat in the chair, the mirrors reflecting her from every direction. The moment she settled, the room darkened and her reflection vanished. In its place appeared a vision of Illyra, looking frightened and pale. Mia's fingers trembled slightly as she unlatched the rusted gate, its creak cutting through the thick silence like a whisper from the past. Her heart beat louder with each step, echoing off the stone path that led to the cottage she once feared and admired. She paused before the door, noticing carvings etched into the wood, symbols she didn't recognize, yet they felt strangely familiar. With one deep breath, she pushed the door open, revealing dust-laden furniture and air that smelled like forgotten time. A wind passed through broken windows, swirling the dust into shapes that almost resembled faces curious and watching. Inside, her footsteps echoed, each one stirring memories she couldn't quite place but knew were hers. A photograph lay on the mantel, faded but intact, a younger Mia with her parents, taken long before they vanished. She gently picked it up, brushing away the dust, staring into the eyes of a girl who had once felt safe and whole. Then she noticed a door behind the fireplace slightly ajar, as though inviting her in, daring her to uncover truth. With her heart pounding and her breath unsteady, Mia stepped toward it, unaware of what she was about to discover. The hidden door groaned as it opened, revealing a staircase that spiraled into the earth like a tunnel to secrets untold. The air grew colder with each step, the walls tightening, breathing around her, as if alive and listening. Her flashlight flickered, casting shadows that danced with eerie grace across ancient stone. As she descended, Mia felt the ground humming, a deep vibration pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. At the bottom was a chamber round and lined with mirrors, reflecting her image infinitely in all directions. In the center stood a table, and on it rested an open book, its pages glowing with a faint golden light. She approached slowly, the symbols on the pages shifting, rearranging themselves into words she could finally understand. The book told stories of generations of power passed down through blood, of betrayal, sacrifice, and a curse yet to be broken. Mia's fingers grazed the page, and the room pulsed in response, as if the chamber itself acknowledged her presence. She now knew this wasn't just her family's secret, it was her destiny, and the journey had only begun. The book whispered truths into her mind, visions of her ancestors, cloaked in firelight, chanting beneath moonlit skies. Their voices merged with hers in a language she didn't know she knew, a sacred tongue carried in her blood. Each page she turned unveiled another layer of mystery, rituals, maps, and warnings of the power she held. A name appeared again and again, the Hollow Queen, a title linked to Mia through a lineage long hidden. The more she read, the more she remembered dreams from her childhood, dreams that were now revealed as memories. She saw her mother's face, not in fear, but fierce and determined, standing in the very chamber she now occupied. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization of truth meeting belief. Suddenly, the chamber trembled, the mirrors vibrating as a new passage opened in the wall behind her. She closed the book carefully, tucking it under her arm like a piece of her soul newly recovered. With breath steady and eyes wide, Mia stepped forward into the passage, determined to finish what her family had begun. The new passage was narrow and damp, its walls lined with symbols etched deep into stone, some glowing faintly as she passed. The light from the book cast long shadows ahead of her, illuminating drawings of battles, celestial alignments, and ritual circles. Mia's steps were cautious but purposeful, each movement forward felt like a reclaiming of something long denied. She felt eyes watching her, not malevolent, but expectant, as though the past waited for her to earn her place in it. The tunnel led to a second chamber, smaller but warmer, filled with the scent of herbs and the glow of candles untouched by time. A bowl rested on an altar at the center, filled with water so still it looked like polished glass. As she leaned over it, her reflection shifted, not her face now, but that of her mother, then her grandmother, and others she didn't know. Their mouths moved, forming words she couldn't hear but felt deeply, like waves of meaning breaking against her heart. Suddenly, the water rippled, and her own face returned, older, wiser, and marked with a glowing sigil on her forehead. Mia touched her brow, and though nothing was there, she knew the mark had formed within her. Above her, ancient roots broke through the stone ceiling, pulsing with a slow, amber light like veins of the earth itself. They seemed to reach toward her, wrapping slightly around the walls as if to protect the room and her. On the far wall hung a tapestry, woven with strange fabric that shimmered between colors depending on the light. It showed a woman at the edge of a cliff, holding a lantern and facing down a rising darkness shaped like a beast. Mia felt drawn to it, her breath catching in her throat as she recognized the woman's stance. It mirrored a dream she'd had for years. As she reached out to touch the fabric, a voice echoed softly around her, neither male nor female, but familiar, "You've always known." The tapestry moved, revealing a hidden compartment behind it containing a small wooden box. Inside lay a pendant shaped like a crescent moon, its center holding a blood-red stone that pulsed with life. As soon as Mia clasped it around her neck, warmth flooded her body, and her vision cleared, colors sharper, sounds deeper, heart steady. She was no longer just Mia, she was an echo of all those who came before, now awakened. Her return to the upper chamber was met with a gentle shift in the air as if the space itself bowed to her presence. Mia glanced once more into the mirrors, and instead of infinite versions of herself, she saw one reflection, calm, whole, and clear. She climbed the stone stairs slowly, book and pendant close to her heart, knowing her path would lead beyond the house. Outside, twilight had fallen, casting hues of violet and blue across the sky, as though the world had paused to welcome her back. The trees whispered as she passed, their branches leaning slightly in the wind, acknowledging her new role. Though the land looked the same, it felt different, as if reality itself had deepened, waiting for her to ask the right questions. Back in the town, lights flickered on in the windows, and people passed her unaware that a legacy had just been reignited. She knew she couldn't tell them, not yet, not until she understood what her family had protected, and what dangers still slept. The pendant's glow remained hidden under her shirt, but she could feel it thrumming like a heartbeat in rhythm with her own. Whatever came next, Mia knew she was no longer alone in the world. She had the strength of generations within her. At home, she spread the book across her bed, pages still shifting under her fingers like they were alive. The more she read, the more pieces connected, rituals disguised as lullabies, protective charms sewn into childhood clothes. The old lullaby her mother sang now made perfect sense. It was a spell of memory, woven into melody. She began to sing it softly, and as her voice danced through the air, the pendant glowed again, responding with warmth. A faint wind circled her room, stirring papers and pushing open the curtains to reveal a full moon, heavy and bright. She closed her eyes, letting the words come naturally, the language flowing from her lips like she was born to it. The room brightened for a moment, no source, no bulb, just light from something older than electricity. Mia felt lifted, not physically, but spiritually, as if a door had opened in her soul, and something sacred stepped through. She whispered her mother's name, and for a brief second, a figure stood in the mirror behind her, smiling. Her tears were not of sorrow, but gratitude for knowing that her mother's love had never left. That night, her dreams were unlike any before, lucid, vivid, almost more real than waking life. She walked through a forest of silver trees, where stars fell like snow and whispers curled in the mist. A fox with glowing eyes guided her to a clearing, where a circle of women stood, all wearing the same pendant. They welcomed her in silence, touching her shoulders, marking her with a glowing handprint that pulsed like a heartbeat. One of them, taller than the rest, placed a crown of woven branches on her head and nodded solemnly. "You are the last, and the first," she said, her voice echoing like music in the wind. Mia felt warmth flood her chest, as if something ancient had locked into place within her. When she woke, the crown from the dream was gone, but the scent of forest still lingered on her pillow. Outside her window, the fox sat calmly, watching her with knowing eyes, then disappeared into the morning. Mia smiled, understanding now that even her dreams were part of the path she must walk. She began exploring the town differently, seeing things she had never noticed before: hidden marks on street signs, ancient trees at odd corners. The shopkeeper who always smiled too knowingly now nodded at her with new respect, slipping a rune-stamped pouch into her hands without a word. At the library, dusty tomes once ignored seemed to glow faintly when she neared, inviting her to open them. Symbols from the book in the cottage began appearing in the margins of her school notebooks, drawn subconsciously while her mind wandered. Mia was changing, not just in knowledge, but in presence. People stepped aside when she passed, children stared with wide, curious eyes. She wasn't afraid of the attention, it felt natural, as if the world was adjusting around her rather than against her. One evening, while walking home, a shadow slipped beside her and whispered, "They know you've awakened." She turned, but nothing was there, only the wind and a flicker of movement in the trees. Later that night, she marked her door with salt and sigils, protective charms from the book now instinctual to her. Mia understood this was no longer about uncovering history, this was about preparing for what was coming. The symbols on the walls began to glow faintly as Mia walked deeper, their light casting ethereal patterns across her skin. She reached a wide hall lined with arches, each one framing scenes from the past, moving, living memories playing like film. One showed her grandmother in battle, hands raised, summoning wind and fire to protect the village from shadowy beasts. Another revealed her father, younger, poring over the same glowing book she now carried, his face both afraid and resolute. Mia reached out, and the image rippled at her touch. These weren't just stories, they were echoes of truth waiting for her. The end of the hallway led to an enormous circular room with a domed ceiling, its center filled with roots of an ancient tree. Light poured from the top of the dome like a moonbeam, striking the tree and causing it to shimmer with soft silver hues. In the silence, Mia heard whispers, voices of those who came before her, guiding her, urging her to complete the ritual. On the floor, etched in gold, was a sigil, and when she stepped into its center, the tree pulsed as if alive. The ritual had begun, and Mia stood not as a girl lost in history but as its next author. The air thickened around her, humming with power as the ancient tree's roots began to move, curling protectively at her feet. Each root carried memories, lives and choices, pain and sacrifice, joy and wrath, all flowing into Mia in flashes of vision. Her knees buckled but she remained upright, the energy coursing through her veins like wildfire under her skin. The ceiling shifted above her, the stars aligning perfectly through the dome, forming a celestial sigil matching the one below. A name echoed in the chamber, Mia of the Hollow Light, spoken by unseen voices with reverence and finality. The book in her hand opened on its own, turning to a blank page, and ink poured across it like living shadow. Words formed not from her hand but from her heart, as her soul wrote its vows into the legacy of guardians before her. I accept the light. I bear the curse. I mend the blood. I guard the hollow, the words etched in gold beneath her breath. As the final word was sealed, the roots withdrew gently, leaving Mia standing in silence, no longer afraid but reborn. A hidden door opened beyond the tree, its light beckoning her forward toward the heart of everything. The next chamber was colder, older, more broken, its walls cracked from time, its floor uneven with age and neglect. Yet at its center stood a throne carved from obsidian, veined with silver that pulsed with the same rhythm as Mia's breath. Upon it sat a shadow, not a creature, but a living echo, a presence left behind by her mother to guide, or to test. Mia approached slowly, the shadows curling back to reveal the faint outline of her mother's face, flickering like candlelight. You came, the shade whispered, not with words but thoughts that settled directly into Mia's mind like rain on dry earth. She reached out, not to touch, but to understand, and in that moment their memories collided and merged. Her mother's pain became hers, years of running, hiding, protecting, all so Mia could one day stand here free. Tears streamed silently down Mia's cheeks as her mother's shadow nodded once and dissolved into the silver veins. From the obsidian rose a new object, a pendant, shaped like the hollow sigil, humming with raw, ancient energy. Mia placed it around her neck and felt its warmth settle in her chest like a second heartbeat. With each step beyond the throne, Mia felt more of the place, recognizing her not as an intruder but as its rightful heir. Torches lit themselves as she passed, their flames white-blue, revealing murals and writings once lost to darkness. One mural depicted a battle light against dark, not good versus evil, but truth clashing with corruption. Another showed a woman crowned in silver, standing alone atop a hill, holding the same pendant Mia now wore. She realized this wasn't just a family calling, it was a lineage that had been defending balance since forgotten time. As she turned, the floor beneath her shifted, lowering slowly into another space, hidden deeper still beneath the world. This was the Hollow's core, a sanctum so sacred no one but a true heir could survive it, let alone enter. The air shimmered with strange energy, gravity bending slightly as symbols floated freely, circling around her body. She felt a pull, not outward, but inward, like her soul was finally aligning with the destiny that had always been waiting. And then a voice, calm, ancient, feminine, filled the air. Are you ready to become the Hollow Queen? Mia didn't speak aloud, she didn't need to. Her mind, her will, her very breath answered with unwavering yes. The floating symbols surged into her chest, swirling and binding around her heart, sealing her transformation. Her body didn't change, but her presence did. Suddenly the chamber quieted, the energy bowed before her, recognizing its queen. Above her, the ceiling split open, revealing the night sky, stars spinning faster, aligning as if celebrating her ascension. All around her, elements responded, wind brushed her skin gently, the stone beneath her feet warmed, even shadows withdrew respectfully. A new book appeared on a pedestal before her, blank except for the title etched in glowing silver, The Chronicle of Mia. She reached for the quill beside it, her hand steady, her heart certain, as she wrote the first line of her reign. I am not the end of this story, nor its beginning. I am the light that walks within its hollow. And as those words set into the page, a tremor of magic rippled outward, reaching every corner of the ancient world. From forgotten lands to deep forests, they knew, the Hollow Queen had risen. The chamber began to recede, folding away into dust and light, leaving Mia standing once again in the original cottage. But it wasn't the same. The dust had cleared, the windows repaired, the air warm and alive with quiet power. The photograph on the mantel had changed to her parents now smiling with pride, and in the center stood Mia, crowned in silver. Outside, the storm had vanished, replaced by the calm shimmer of dawn breaking over fields she once feared to tread. Birdsong filled the morning, and wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the voice of her lineage, welcome home. Mia stepped outside, the pendant pulsing against her chest, her eyes scanning the horizon for what was next. She knew now that the world was wider than she'd ever imagined, and her role within it, infinitely deeper. Every step she took would ripple through time, her decisions guiding more than just herself. But she didn't feel burdened. She felt chosen, empowered, ready to protect what others could not even see. And so she walked into the light, not as the girl who had entered the hollow, but as the queen who had returned from it. News of her return spread quietly at first through wind, dream, and whisper, reaching those sensitive to the old ways. Elders in distant villages lit candles in her name, their dreams more peaceful, their skies less troubled. A boy in a valley far away looked up from his drawing and suddenly sketched Mia's face, though he'd never met her. Animals grew calmer near sacred groves, and the river that had stopped flowing for a generation began to move again. Even in the great city, built atop forgotten ley lines, a cat sat at a window and meowed as Mia passed by unseen. She was everywhere and nowhere, an unseen thread mending old fabric, connecting lost stories, giving them voice again. Mia returned to the places her parents once guarded, now imbued with wisdom and strength of her own making. She taught quietly, acted boldly, never revealing everything, for some truths must be earned, not given. And all the while, the hollow pulsed beneath her, alive, awake, and no longer waiting. She had not just filled its silence, she had made it sing again. Mia followed the sound of her name being whispered through the dark corridor, her heart thudding like a distant drum, but her curiosity stronger than her fear. The voice had an eerie calmness to it, almost familiar, like a memory from a dream she couldn't fully remember. As she walked deeper into the shadows, the air grew colder, and a soft, golden light flickered faintly at the far end. Her fingers brushed the walls, now covered with strange etchings that glowed faintly under her touch, telling stories and symbols she didn't understand. She knew she was crossing into a place that was older than time itself, something beyond logic and human understanding. The light intensified, and she found herself in a round room with a large mirror in the center, unlike any ordinary glass. The reflection didn't show her image, but rather moments from her past, things she had forgotten or chosen to ignore. Mia saw her childhood self, alone in a garden, speaking to an invisible friend who looked just like the woman from the portrait. The mirror began to ripple, like a pond disturbed by a single stone, pulling her in emotionally and spiritually. Suddenly, a whisper came from behind her, "She is waiting." Mia spun around, her eyes searching the corners of the ancient room, but nothing was there except the stillness of the air. The mirror now showed an open gate leading into a forest drenched in purple light, and a path lined with glowing stones. Her hand reached forward instinctively, and as her fingers touched the glass, it felt warm and alive, as if welcoming her. With a deep breath, she stepped through, not knowing whether it would lead her forward or trap her forever. The moment she crossed over, the air changed. It was thicker, humming with energy, like she had stepped into the heartbeat of another world. Creatures watched her from the shadows, their eyes glowing but not threatening, just curious about the visitor from another realm. She walked cautiously, the trees whispering her name, leaves swirling around her feet in rhythmic patterns. A deer with golden antlers appeared before her, bowed slightly, and then began walking ahead, as if guiding her to something important. Mia followed, the sounds of her own footsteps muffled by the thick, soft moss that carpeted the ground. With each step, memories returned, but not hers, rather memories that didn't belong to this life. Mia began to feel like 1,000 lives were unraveling inside her, overlapping emotions, fears, joys, and regrets she couldn't place. The deer led her to a clearing where a single tree stood, ancient and vast, its trunk inscribed with runes that pulsed softly. There was a presence near the tree, a figure cloaked in silver, face hidden, but posture warm and welcoming. "I've been waiting," the figure said, its voice neither male nor female, but something universal and melodic. Mia felt no fear, only the strange sensation of déjà vu, like she had known this moment would come all along. The figure held out a crystal pendant, glowing softly, and said, "This belongs to you, as it always has." The moment she touched the pendant, her vision flashed to battle long ago, where she stood on the cliff's edge, casting light to save a hidden realm. "I'm not just Mia," she whispered to herself. "I was someone else. I am someone else." The pendant pulsed with her heartbeat, syncing with the forest, the sky, and the energy around her. She had unlocked a part of herself buried deep within time and soul. The figure gestured to the base of the tree, where a spiral staircase descended into the earth, lit by fireflies dancing like stardust. Mia didn't question the direction anymore, her instincts guided her, and every step downward felt like peeling away layers of forgetting. The tunnel below led her into chambers filled with relics, her drawings as a child, letters she never wrote, songs she had only dreamed of. It was a museum of her essence, echoing her laughter and tears in haunting harmony, reflecting a soul more ancient than her years. In the deepest chamber, there was a throne of vines and crystal, pulsing gently, as though waiting for its owner to return. The moment Mia stepped toward it, the entire space illuminated, and the presence of thousands of voices surrounded her, a chorus of ancestors. "You are the bridge," they whispered in unison, "between what was and what must be." She sat on the throne, not with arrogance, but with a calm understanding that this was where her journey was meant to lead. The pendant on her neck flared brightly, sending a wave of peace throughout the entire hidden realm. Mia was no longer just a girl lost in mystery, she was its keeper now. As Mia sat in the heart of the chamber, she realized her story was far from over. This was merely another beginning. The forest above shifted, as if the realm itself had exhaled in relief, recognizing its guardian had returned. Suddenly, roots from the throne wrapped gently around her arms, transferring knowledge, visions of worlds beyond her own. She saw future events, dangers threatening to consume both the real and hidden realms, and her role in balancing the chaos. The pendant now served as a conduit, and within its glow, she saw the truth, her past lives, the cycle of loss and renewal. She had failed before, and that's why the realm had hidden itself, waiting for her spirit to find the way again. The whispers turned into melodies, humming songs only she could understand, lullabies from a forgotten time. In her hands, the relics of the chamber glowed faintly, empowering her with clarity, courage, and compassion. She stood once more, ready not just to learn but to lead, carrying the legacy of those who once guarded this realm. Her footsteps echoed with certainty as she ascended the spiral staircase again, back to the world above. When Mia emerged from the tree's hollow, everything looked different, yet familiar. The forest bowed in silent reverence to her return. The golden antlered deer waited, nodding before vanishing into stardust, its role fulfilled. She walked with a new grace, her heart steady, her eyes now reflecting a deep and knowing light. Back at the edge of the woods, the mansion stood as before, but the vines were now blooming, and the door was open. Inside, the portraits bowed slightly, their eyes shimmering as if alive, welcoming their guardian home. The journal on the desk wrote itself, its ink weaving the story she had just lived, ensuring it would never be forgotten again. Mia placed the pendant on the book, and the room filled with light, a beacon across time. Outside, the sky was clear, stars aligned in ancient formations, signaling a shift in balance. She stood on the balcony once more, but this time, she didn't feel alone, she felt whole. This was not the end of the tale, only the close of one chapter in a much larger story. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, what you learned today, bae.